The telegram arrived on a Thursday afternoon while I was organizing ledgers in the accounting office where I worked. A stark, yellow envelope delivered by a hurried boy. Usually a message like that would be from my stepfather, complaining about some expense. But this one was different. Miss Alara Vance, I have an item belonging to your late father. Urgent matter. Come to my shop. 14 Baxter Street. S. Goldstein. My heart stopped. My mother's brooch. It had to be. It was the only valuable thing my father owned, a delicate dragonfly of platinum and sapphires he'd given her on their first wedding anniversary. I opened my desk drawer, where I kept it in a velvet box during the workday. Empty. Miss Vance, are you all right? My boss, Mr. Abernathy, asked, seeing my pale face. The brooch, I whispered. It's gone. I left work immediately, my hands shaking on the wheel of my modest Ford Model T. My mother's brooch, the only thing my father had left specifically to me, had been in that drawer yesterday morning. I checked it every day, running my fingers over the small inscription on the back. To my Lillian, who taught me to fly. Love, Thomas. He'd given it to her a year before he died in the Great War. When I was little, he used to tell me my mother was his dragonfly, always soaring higher than anyone else. After her death, he kept it like a holy relic. On his deathbed in a field hospital in France, he gave it to his best friend, Sergeant Miller, with one instruction. For my Alara. Only for my Alara. That was 8 years ago, 6 years before the aunt I lived with married Mr. Sterling, an investment banker with grand ambitions. 5 years before his son, my step-cousin Arthur, moved into our home with his dreams of greatness and an even greater appetite for other people's money. Mr. Iam. Goldstein's pawn shop was wedged between a tailor and a bakery, the kind of street where hope was a rare commodity. Mr. Goldstein looked exactly as a pawn shop owner should, old with shrewd eyes behind thick spectacles, but an unexpectedly kind expression when he saw me. You have your father's face, he said simply. Thomas Vance was an honorable man. He sold me his pocket watch once, years ago, to pay for your schooling. Paid it all back with interest in less than a month. He disappeared into the back, returning with the familiar velvet box. This came in yesterday. A young man, well-dressed, said it was his to sell, but when I opened it for inspection, he opened the box. There was the brooch, looking smaller, more vulnerable. Normally, I don't ask many questions, Mr. Goldstein continued. But I knew your father. I knew he would never part with this. That's when I noticed something. He picked up the brooch, turned it over, and with a thumbnail opened a tiny compartment I never knew existed. This is not standard. Someone modified this piece. Inside was a thin piece of paper, folded impossibly small. I have not read it, Mr. Goldstein said. If your father hid it this carefully, it was meant for specific eyes. With trembling fingers, I unfolded the paper. My father's handwriting, unmistakable. My dearest Alara, if you are reading this, something has happened to the brooch. Go to the Emigrant Savings Bank. Safe Deposit Box 218. The key is inside my old ship's barometer. The brooch is your memory, but what is in that box is your future. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. With love, Papa. I need to buy the brooch back, I said, my voice thick. How much? Mr. Goldstein shook his head. The young man who brought it in, dapper, two-toned shoes, wouldn't stop talking about his new jazz club. Arthur. He asked for $500, but I never filed the paperwork. Technically, this transaction never happened. He slid the box across the counter. Take it. If anyone asks, it was never here. Your father helped me once when I came from Poland with nothing. Consider this me settling up. I left the shop clutching the brooch, my mind racing. My father's barometer was in the drawing room. My aunt had wanted to throw it out, but I'd insisted on keeping it. I found them in the living room. My aunt and Mr. Sterling, and Arthur, gesticulating wildly about his new venture, the Blue Dahlia, a speakeasy that would be the most exclusive in the city. Alara, my aunt said, surprised. What are you doing home? I set the velvet box on the coffee table between us. Looking for this. The silence stretched. Guilt flashed across their faces before being replaced by practiced indignation. Where did you find? My aunt started. Where did I find the brooch you stole from my desk drawer? I finished. my voice surprisingly calm. The brooch you pawned to finance this ridiculous jazz club, the brooch that was the only thing my father left me. Now, Alara, Mr. Sterling began in his banker's voice, let's not be dramatic. Arthur needed capital. Financed by theft, I said. It's not theft when it's family, my aunt said, her voice rising. We put a roof over your head. I pay rent, above market rate actually, I retorted. My father was my family. This was his legacy, and you let your son steal it as if it meant nothing. I turned and walked to the drawing room, to the old ship's barometer on the mantelpiece. There was a small slit in the back. Inside, wrapped in a piece of cloth, was a small safe deposit key. I grabbed the key and left. As I closed the door behind me, I heard my stepfather's angry voice. Where does she think she's going? The answer was simple. I was going to the bank. I was going to claim the future my father left me, the one they had tried to steal. The Emigrant Savings Bank was an imposing building of granite and brass in the heart of Wall Street, a temple to money that my father, as a stonemason, had helped to build. The safe deposit vault, deep underground, was silent and cool. It required 2 keys, mine and the bank's. The manager, an older man who remembered my father, asked no questions. Box 218 was larger than I had expected. Inside were 3 things: a thick manila envelope, a leather-bound journal, and another letter. I read the letter first. My dearest Alara, if you are reading this, you have found my insurance policy. I started this box when you were born because I knew you were going to be special. The envelope has bearer bonds. They are worth about $10,000 now. The journal has all the details of my masonry projects, client lists, contacts, outstanding invoices. There is probably another $1,000 there, if you wish to pursue it. Tears streamed down my face as I read. But what I really want you to know is this. I did not just leave you a brooch. I left you time. Time to choose your own path without worrying about money. Time to leave if you need to. Time to be yourself, without apology. Your aunt is a good woman, but her new husband sees the world in terms of who deserves what. You are quiet, like me. That does not make you less deserving. It makes you observant, intelligent, careful. Use this wisely. And remember, the brooch is not just jewelry. It is a reminder that time is the only real currency we have. Do not let anyone steal yours. All my love, Papa. The bonds were there, as promised. The journal was filled with my father's meticulous records, including several large contractors who still owed him money for work he completed before the war. One name leaped out. Sterling Investments, my stepfather's company, owed $500. They had likely hoped the debt died with him. They were wrong. I spent that evening in a hotel making plans. The next morning, I hired a lawyer who specialized in estate recovery. He looked at my father's journal and smiled. Your father kept impeccable records. This is all actionable. The bonds are clean, and these debts, they do not just disappear because someone dies. How long to recover it all? I asked. The bonds, immediately. The debts, give me a month. I returned to my aunt's house. I could no longer think of it as my home. They were in the living room with Arthur, who was talking about the wonders of his club. Alara, he said with his practiced charm. Look, about the brooch. Save it, I interrupted. I turned to my aunt and Mr. Sterling. I'm moving out today. Don't be ridiculous, my aunt started. Over a brooch. Over a betrayal. Over you choosing them over me again and again. And where will you go? Mr. Sterling asked, likely calculating how much he could rent my room for. That is no longer your concern. Arthur stood. I'll pay you back when the club takes off. No, you'll pay me back now. The $500, with interest. My lawyer will be in touch. Lawyer? My aunt went pale. Alara, you can't. I can, and I will. My father always said, the best time to stand up for yourself is the moment you realize you're being stood on. I packed my things. The brooch went back in my purse, where it belonged. As I loaded my car, my aunt came out one last time. Your father would be ashamed, she said coldly, turning on family like this. I looked at her. My father, I said clearly, left me more than you ever knew. And the only thing he'd be ashamed of is that it took me this long to see you for what you really are. The life I built next was a quiet testament to my father's legacy. The bonds cashed out for nearly $12,000. My lawyer recovered almost all the debts, including the one from Sterling Investments, which paid in full to avoid a lawsuit that would have exposed their business practices. Arthur's Jazz Club, the Blue Dahlia, went bankrupt in less than 6 months. He had spent all the money on decor and bootleg liquor, but failed to attract the high society clientele he craved. My aunt and Mr. Sterling called once, asking for a small family loan. I hung up. I used my father's money to do something he would have loved. Instead of a house, I bought a small shop on a quiet street in Greenwich Village. The sign I had painted was simple: Vance and Daughter, Timekeepers and Jewelers. I had my father's journal with all his drawings, his techniques, his secrets. I spent the next year learning the trade, feeling the same passion he had felt for the intricate, beautiful machinery of time. My shop did not make me rich, but it made me independent. It became a place of beauty and precision, a sanctuary of craftsmanship in a world increasingly obsessed with mass production. My mother's brooch sat in a velvet display on my desk, not for sale, but as a reminder. Time is the only real currency we have. My father knew that. He knew the brooch would matter to me, not for its value, but for what it represented. All the time we had together, all the time he'd worked to give me a future. He also knew something else, that eventually someone would try to steal it from me. So he made sure that even if they took the brooch, they couldn't take what really mattered: the time for me to choose my own life, the time for me to stand up for myself, the time for me to realize that I had always been worthy of every single second. The brooch is back in its place, but more importantly, my time is my own. And I am not wasting another minute of it on people who think they deserve it.